everyone. Thanks for joining us to discuss with these VCs the trends and opportunities in DePIN. So if we could kick things off by having everyone introduce themselves and their affiliations.
Hello, I'm Kang. People call me KK in Web3. I'm the founder of Hash Global, and DePIN is one of our focused areas.
Hello, I'm Ray from IOSG Ventures. We are a crypto fund based in Asia area. Our main focus in infra middleware absolutely include DePIN. That's why we are here to discuss this topic. Yeah, so nice to discuss this topic here. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Eo, and I'm co-founder of Future Money Group. We invest in the most frontier ideas that brings Web3 and real world together.
Hi, I'm Jolene Han from Hash Research of Hash Exchange. Recently, we've been looking at a lot of the DePIN projects, and it'll be interesting to share how everyone look at it, what framework you use.
Yeah, fantastic. So DePIN is a pretty broad term, and there's also DePIN adjacent and a lot of different ways of defining the space. I would love to hear from you all how you define DePIN and what that category means for you. Maybe Jolene, we can kick things off with you.
Sure. So at Hash Exchange, we look at it really broadly. So anything that utilizes crypto tokenomics and decentralization to build on or improve on the physical infrastructure, we would generally call that DePIN already. Yeah.
I think DePIN to me is a buzzword, and the buzzword may change. But what I'm looking at is what actually transforms the work into something like, more open source, decentralized, and something that relies on protocols to generate real revenue from real daily activities.
Yeah, I think like Diana's just mentioned, DePIN is a very broad concept, but I think it's a very interesting narrative for all the blockchain projects, because I think the most exciting things for developers is that they can share this nature of the blockchain, which includes decentralization, permissionless, trustless way to manage the data, etc. So I think from investor perspective, DePIN usually include those decentralized networks to have business interact with the real world business. But absolutely, we can think layer one Ethereum can include it in this concept. But usually, when we talk about DePIN, it's more like how to interact with this bootstrap a real world infrastructure and use token economics to coordinate with each other with demand side, supply side. Yeah.
We actually start to invest in DePIN projects long before the word DePIN was coined by Mastery Research. So we personally don't like the word DePIN that much as people would expect. For two reasons. Number one, a lot of DePIN projects we look at, they are not infrastructure. Sometimes they're not decentralized that much. Sometimes they are not even physical. For us, it will make a lot more sense if we use the word IoT 3.0. Because IoT plus blockchain makes a lot more sense to us. And that's what we had been investing long before the word DePIN was made up. And also for the number two reason is when you explain to traditional investor, when I say traditional investor, I mean non-Web3 investors. And they always criticize me, my friends in the traditional investment circle, they always laughed at me, say, you Web3 people just made too many words than necessary. Yes, I said I agree, especially in this field. I personally like IoT 3.0 a lot more than DePIN itself. Why do we need DePIN? And sometimes a lot of projects we look at, they are not really decentralized, but they made a lot of sense when you put blockchain technology on top of the IoT technology. And you make Web 3.0 can make IoT workable in some business scenario. So that's our take.
I think that's a really interesting way of approaching it, and also it makes it maybe a little bit easier to understand for traditional investors, for people in the mainstream, for LPs, and these are the individuals that we really want to be contributing to these networks, participating in these networks. So I'm curious as to how you all actually sell the concept of DePIN over traditional infrastructure, which most people are using today, or when you're discussing even with your LPs on why this is an interesting space to be investing in. What are those advantages? Because sometimes just saying, oh, well, it's decentralized isn't really a selling point for most people. But yeah, I would love to hear from you how you approach that. Io, maybe let's start with you.
I think I've been sharing this all the time, and I think for us, we really look at, as investors, we're really looking for contrarian ideas and the chances of being right and contrarian at the same time. For us, I think DePIN is it's a much undervalued sector compared to other ones. If you look at the market cap of layer ones, if you look at the total market cap of layer twos, if you look at other more mature sectors, I think they're higher valued somehow. They're overvalued sometimes because you're building something for people to build apps upon. You're not really building something that people can really use. So for us, I think this is a chance that we can really build something that the end consumer or small businesses can capitalize on and make use of. I think that is undervalued opportunity for us. So I always, whenever I talk to investors, I talk to community members, I talk to founders, I always tell them this, first principle that, you need to build something that people will use.
And for the users themselves, for these consumers, because right now we are in the diseconomies of scale phase, or I don't know how you've been sort of approaching or looking at the actual economics behind these networks, but for people that would be participating or would be using them, how does that look and how do we see those advantages playing out? Would it be that it's lower cost, or why do we need these networks, and what's the sort of longer term thesis? Maybe KK, we can start with you.
I said we invested in those projects before DePIN the word was invented. But the investment logic hasn't changed at all for us in the past several years. We hope that the projects will make sense in a way that if we don't have blockchain, the data generated by those IoT devices, the value of the data cannot be realized. The reason why IoT didn't work like mobile internet is because the data generated by the IoT devices the value of it cannot be realized before blockchain. So all the DePIN projects we invested in, they have to either help the IoT devices data, the value can be generated or can be realized. They have to do one of these two things. Otherwise, for us, we actually look at many DePIN projects in the past 1 year, in the past 2 years after DePIN the concept was made up. But we actually invested in a lot fewer projects than we expected, because most of the projects are just focused too much on the tokens, focused too much on the tokenomics, focused too much on how much the token will be valued. I know it's not it's not a bad thing, because as long as investors make money, but it just doesn't fit into our investment logic that well. So we look at the data value of this project. It could be our pet dog version of DePIN. It could be our we recently led an investment in a project in Japan, which is in the adult entertainment industry. That project made great sense to us. Without tokenomics, it can make a lot of cash revenue, a lot of business revenue without Web3. But with Web3, it will fly.
What's the physical network there? Cameras?
So it's because the adult entertainment industry is such a profitable industry that no big giants in this industry are willing to make even a little bit of innovation, technology innovation, because they can just sit there and make huge tons of money. If you look at the balance sheet of DMM, the giant in Japan, they are making $40 billion a year. They don't need to make innovations. But Web3 founders, the team we're looking at, they will make great innovation in this industry. I can't wait to show you this project, but not here, not public.
Yeah, definitely not.
It's totally legal, and they are going to start this thing in Japan first, and then in Canada. And it's 100% legal, and we believe it will bring happiness to human beings. Yeah. And that makes a lot of sense to us, and it's a great DePIN project. It is a DePIN project.
Okay.
So that's how we take it. Yeah.
Great. Jeline, how are you sort of defining what the benefits would be versus the traditional DePIN infrastructure and sort of forming your thesis around the space?
I'm from also a TradFi background. So I actually find DePIN actually is a really easy way to explain stakeholder economy to traditional investors. So for them, it makes sense. And so it's actually easier to explain than DeFi and other things. Because once you get the economies of scale, right, you can actually do a lot more, like the scalability. Whatever you use, you make your economy, your community upload the information. There's actually a lot of potential there, right? So I actually think that for for DePIN, it is a very scalable. I think the beginning stages would be a little bit difficult for you to gain the scale, for it to be valuable. But once you go through it, you have to build a project that makes sense, so that you'll be able to have enough time to build the scale, the community, the infrastructure. Then I do think people do understand the power.
Great. And Ray, how are you approaching, or what's your thesis for the space at IOSG?
Yeah, I think it's always interesting to discuss this kind of topic, because at the end of the day, this kind of questions finally becomes why real world assets or real world use case really need blockchain or really need Web3. I think we have already been in this industry for 6-7 years. For me personally, I think the beauty of this concept is that for DePIN concept is that that persuade me personally is that they lower down the threshold to bootstrap infrastructure compared to Web 2 side. It's kind of like use a crowdsourcing capital investment and expense, lower down the cost. Use a popular example, Helium and the mobile 5G. Their business is like they took those Web 2 telecom companies' traffic, and they can bootstrap those infrastructure in a rural area in the US. And for retail investors, they can take part in this kind of crowdsourcing investment opportunities. So I think this is a good way to bootstrap a network, because if for a Web 2 company, if they want to bootstrap this infrastructure, they definitely need to invest billions of dollars of funds. I think this is the first thing, the main thing that really persuade me. And another thing is blockchain or DePIN that allows. Right now we have this technology like ZK, snark proof. It allows the developers to use a trustless way to query the data to fetch the off-chain data without trust any centralized entities. Like in the previous 3-4 years, we only can trust like centralized entities or use Oracle to fetch those data. But right now we have ZK proof. We can generate proof to prove that the computation of the fetching of data, the process is honest. It has integrity. I think this is a very magical thing for Web3 native smart contract developers. I think this is two value I saw in DePIN or in blockchain. Although in most of the time investors are very skeptical, but this is two things that really persuade me in many use cases.
Great, and you guys have made the DePIN index. Was that driven by investor demand, or what led to that, and what are you seeing through that development?
Yeah, well, thanks for paying attention to DePIN Index. It started out as a side project, we started out like thinking of, can we do something to like select the best DePIN tokens and eventually make them into either or a DeFi token composed of like a basket of DePIN tokens, or something like a financial vehicle that can bring exposure to traditional institutions who want to get exposed to DePIN sector. I think this DePIN index is something that we composed of like over, I think, 25 DePIN tokens currently, who are actively managed, who have real fundamentals, and who are solving real problems. We want to keep doing research and doing like the most up-to-date follow-up on these projects, like including tracking their growth, tracking their revenue, tracking their community members, to eventually come to a stage where we can find, this is going to be something that Web3 can eventually generate revenue from non-financial activities, because most of the DeFi tokens, most of the meme coin tokens, I don't know how do they generate revenue. Like for DeFi wise, most of the tokens are so volatile because it's highly relevant to the financial activities, financial volatility of the current crypto market. Whereas in the DePIN index is something that we can bring external revenue into the space. And I think that is something interesting I want to keep researching, keep polishing on. So yeah.
Great. So we're talking here about trends and opportunities is the focus of the panel, and obviously AI is certainly what everyone's talking about. How is AI shaping or not your strategies for DePIN, and where do you see that going? KK, we can start with you, maybe a more controversial take.
Nothing controversial, just like we started to look at the AI plus DePIN things from middle of last year. I personally joined several conferences to study more about how AI could fit into DePIN field. We haven't really invested much in this field, and people are are pitching with AI plus DePIN projects. But we are still want to look for example, some AI projects they want to utilize distributed AI computing power like GPU resource, like the projects we saw in America, IO.net. Some Asian teams are pitching the similar story. We haven't really find projects we like. We also look at the MyShell last year. It turns out a very good story and turns out a very solid project, but we really haven't got the feeling that we 100% buy in. So we missed that opportunity, and we missed a lot of opportunities. But we do find some projects we invested before, like GM Network. They are doing AI plus DePIN infrastructure things. Very interesting and very promising. We hope they can find a way to make both sides work. That's some areas we really want to learn and want to explore opportunities. Yeah, we keep close eye on that, but really haven't pulled the trigger much.
Right. Anyone else? Has AI been affecting the way that you look at DePIN? Ray?
Yeah, we actually, I think 2 years ago, we invested in a company called ChamAI. They are doing a GPU computation. I think before, our impression for AI plus blockchain or plus DePIN is we can only use a decentralized way to find the machine, the idle machine, to do some computation to train in the model. But I think an interesting phenomenon in this year is that we can see, like KK just mentioned, like a lot of other use cases. For example, AI inferences, like AI engines, like even like ZKML, like how to like use ZK proof to generate the computation for the AI computation. So there are a lot of more and more use cases coming out, but I don't think like all of them can be including under the DePIN concept. Some of them, they are more like a crypto native use case. For example, like ZK coprocessor, like they are ZK machine learning. They are more focused on how to use off-chain AI model to do some training or do some inference for on-chain data. But I do think there's some opportunity for DePIN projects to looking for AI sites. For example, like AI can like do the inference for off-chain data and to interact some on-chain use cases. So I think yeah, I think it's interesting topic to discuss. Yeah, and I personally prefer to invest AI with some like crypto native use case. For example, we recently invested AI plus security use case to imagine we all like auditors, smart contract auditors. When we audit the codes, there's a lot of like feedback we can give to the AI model or machine learning model, and then we can train this model to improve our efficiency. Even use like LLM model to improve our working efficiency. So this kind of stuff is interesting. So I think DePIN in this case, maybe we can use some decentralized way to do some redundancy. I imagined, but I'm not sure. But yeah, that's my take here.
Yeah. In terms of like the other trends and opportunities, what are the big areas that you're most focused on at the moment? Jeline, maybe we can start with you and your research at HashKey.
I think like we're so early on in this this whole sector still, right? There will be subsectors that throughout will probably be taking off at different times. For now, I think the GPU, like compute, retrieval, storage, I think they've got a lot of, they're beginning to get the scale, and they're beginning to, we're beginning to see a lot of people look at it, focus on it now. So that might be the like the sooner to see them, you know, come to market, etc. Now, however, we feel like that's one side of it. The supply side is still relatively, like, you know, the requirements of the hardware, etc. is still relatively high. And the whole Web3 is about like many people getting involved, right? So I think that part of it, there could be surprises. So at the moment, there are a lot of models trying to get just people connected, community, built up, right? Networks built up, and that part of it really need to make sure that the quality of the members and the quality of the network, if they're good, we could see some interesting surprises. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, for us, we are big believer in edge AI, and we think AI has to take place on edge devices, no matter it's your phone or it's your electric vehicle or some smart companion at home. And to make this happen, I think we need a lot of innovative designs in protocols, in hardwares, in softwares, and we're eventually going to see a picture where we're going to work with a lot of agents, and the human activities will feed the data to these agents to reinforce their learnings. And this is going to happen. And DePIN is definitely one of the most important layer between software and human beings. Second to that, I think we're very interested in some medium to high stake use cases. Energy, power, these sort of areas where they're not that easily digitized. I think like the computing power is very easily digitized. We already have AWS, something you can click, you can purchase online, you can buy a server, you can sell a server that is already digitized. But those less digitized areas, but also have higher stake, either your power, your energy bill, or batteries, or real estate. These kind of use cases were very much interested, and I believe very few VCs and researchers are currently paying attention to.
Have you seen projects starting to emerge there, or has anyone else on the panel seen these sort of more quite undigitized or traditional areas that DePIN entrepreneurs are starting to look at?
Yeah, for example, like in this conference, I think in like PowerPod, I know they're here, and Arcring and several other projects, Star Power, they're pushing the boundaries to mobilize, digitize, and monetize even your battery usage or your energy bill. So imagine that in California, the government is actually encouraging, incentivizing solar energy. And try to imagine on top of that, what if people can, on top of that, can earn extra token reward by, connecting their panels or connecting their batteries to something like a protocol or something like a marketplace that can trade or, save or reuse those energy. I think that's going to be very interesting. This is something that never, really took place in Web 2. We have some projects in Web 2 that are like energy APIs, but what they're trading is really the data, not energy itself. So let's try to tokenize something that is at a atomic level, something like energy, something like brick and mortar, those areas. So yeah, I just share 3 energy projects. I think they're very interesting and promising.
Thank you. In terms of the infrastructure, so there's been a lot of talk that Solana is sort of like the infrastructure layer for DePIN. How do you see the interplay there, or the opportunities that are being created, or what's being used, and does that make some of these infrastructure plays more interesting for you as you're looking at DePIN and the future opportunities? And is that something that you've explored? KK, maybe we'll start with you.
I don't have very good point on this.
Okay.
If I could, I just maybe pass to others.
Sure. Right. Infrastructure usage. Where do you see opportunities?
About Solana, we don't have, unfortunately, we don't have exposure.
No, but also like roll-ups, or could it be like Caldera? Where do you see like has that shaped any part of your thesis, looking at how people will actually be building, or where they are building the DePIN networks?
Yeah, roll-up, I didn't see roll-ups like with DePIN, but I do think because we invest like MachineFi, IoTex, in 2021, and I think they are actively looking at like Ethereum, and Ethereum the most popular topics in Ethereum right now is restaking, pioneered by EigenLayer. So I think this kind of DePIN projects like MachineFi, they are looking up to if they can leverage this restaking narrative. Either they leverage EigenLayer, like inherent economic security from Ethereum, or they can position themselves as like DePIN layer 1. We have decentralized network. We have some amount of big amount of assets stake on chain, and we can provide economic security for smaller DePIN projects. So I think this is the latest things I saw in this year. Yeah, restaking plus DePIN. Yeah.
Julene, are you seeing any particular infrastructure trends?
As in which chains we're seeing more projects. I think the speed and the availability of different chains naturally may have geared some projects toward some ecosystems, right? So Solana being one of them. So I think naturally, like the cost of transactions and the speed of transaction, I think that's probably driving some of it. But I think we're seeing projects in others as well as also native chains, and also chains purposefully built for more like decentralized infrastructure type of projects. So I'd say we see the fair share from different networks. Yeah.
And then how about when we go to liquid strategies in this space? How are you approaching that? Do you see interesting opportunities with existing projects? There's been quite a few of the earliest projects in the space were also DePIN. How are you seeing those evolving, and what's interesting you? Maybe you can start.
Yeah. So first of all, it's not a financial advice. So what I'm going to share is basically how do we research on potential opportunities in this field, especially when it comes to liquidity strategies. We try to put ourselves in the shoes of miners or deployers or the participants in the network, okay? Because when you deploy the hardware in, let's say, Helium network, you're expecting the token reward, right? And that normally happens in 6 to 12 months for you to break even. In good times, it could be shorter. In bad times, it could be higher. So every time when we tap into a new protocol or a new project, we'll try to look for, what's the most miner or deployer friendly network that actually give the miner, the best, the most reasonable reward in a reasonable period of time. And also they have to, be liquid. The token needs to be liquid. The tokenomics has to make sense. So from that perspective, we've been, picking the projects very carefully in that perspective. And also, just want to, I can totally relate to what you're just sharing about the infra. So we used to have this strategy where we go after the infra that is the most supportive DePIN projects back in 2022. The reason being that, if you're supporting something that sounds ridiculous, something sounds contrarian, such as DePIN, where everybody else is chasing DeFi, you're going after DePIN. You're the good infra. You're something really maverick, and that kind of like meets our personality and our style. So we will might as well research and invest in that kind of like infra tokens or the infrastructure ecosystem itself. So including Solana, including IOTax, I think they're the first movers in DePIN. And if you realize a trend, if you like allocate your assets in there, I think it could be like both rewarding and and really interesting, exciting. Yep.
Great. KK, you are also looking at the sort of liquid side, and how are you evaluating the opportunities in the market?
Do you mean our market, secondary market, the strategy? We do have a secondary market fund, which we launched early last year when the market crashed so much, and we fund the tokens on the secondary market are just so much more. I mean, not all the cases, but a lot of cases we saw much better opportunities existed in the secondary market than in the primary market. So that's why we launched our secondary market fund early last year, and we in our VC strategies we classified the whole Web3 areas into 8 categories, and but we focused on Chinese funders. But for the secondary market fund, we don't need to be in such close connection with the funders. So we actually invested in all the globally in the projects globally, and we looked for the which we called internally the category definer, not just the category leader, but the category definer, because Web3 is such a new area that some leading projects are defining this project, just as Helium is defined the DePIN category. So our secondary market fund strategy is we invested in the category definer of each of the Web3 categories. DePIN is one of them, and we invested in several DePIN projects in the secondary market, and we actually realized pretty good returns through those projects. That's what we've been doing in the secondary market. Yeah.
So we have a couple minutes left, and I'd love to get from each panelist what you are most excited about, and what's the opportunity that you think is the most exciting for the space. If we go through the panel and we start with Jolene, what's got you most excited for the next year, but also say the next 5 years as we look at the DePIN area growing?
We think that DePIN is here to stay, although there may be different names at different times. So we're very excited. However, I think for the immediate, I think for this cycle, we should see it will be one of the focus. And so we're excited to see many projects, and we would like to welcome other good projects to come reach out to us. But in the coming 5 years, I think whether it's going to be called DePIN or not, I think there will be many permutations. The value proposition of having this token economics and decentralization improve on the physical infrastructure is definitely there. How it transforms into which sector at which times become more popular and which projects survive and win. I'm also excited to see that.
Fair. Yeah.
I'm mostly looking forward to KK's entertaining product in next year.
We all are.
Very much so. That is in the short term. And the medium to long term, I'm looking forward to more innovations in different sectors, basically. And it will eventually become something like a mini S&P 500 in crypto, where we have, different, more categories, more category definers, more innovations, just like, something like a financial market full of different, products and tokens and solving real problems.
Yeah, I think compared to the last cycle, the most exciting things we saw in this cycle is that we have a huge much more narrative and innovation compared to the last cycle. Like even for DePIN, we have different new elements and into this narrative like AI, like ZK, modularity, etc., etc. So I'm really looking forward to some of the projects. Like I think there are hundreds of DePIN projects right now. I believe that some of them finally will find a real use case, which means that the real world users will actually use the DePIN projects, even use like 5G or use Wi-Fi or like any hardware use cases. I think some of them definitely will find a use case. And I think one of the most exciting things for me about crypto is that open economic and share economic, this kind of stuff is a great way to coordinate with different stakeholders in the world. Yeah.
Thank you. And KK.
Yeah, I will pass the last question. Yeah, I mean, I will answer that by just say I can't wait to see the games they will release probably in the May or by the end of June of the DePIN projects, which I mentioned earlier in Japan, the entertainment industry. That's what I feel excited about. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there we can definitely see millions of new users onboarding, and really interesting to hear each of your perspectives as investors. Thank you so much.